Nearly 36 hours ago, we learned that the U.S. bombed 3 nuclear sites in Iran. And for some insights now on what comes next, implications for Israel and the U.S., and options available to Iran and its supreme leader. I want to bring in Dan Senor. He's a former foreign policy advisor in the Bush administration, host of Call Me Back's podcast. And it's great to see you this morning.
Good morning.
As we try to understand what comes next. So let's just start with this, the retaliation issue. What do you see happening next?
Look, we knew that Iran was on a path to a nuclear weapon. We knew that Iran is the foremost state sponsor of terrorism in the world, which poses a threat to the United States, the West, and Israel. We know it has these projectiles that it can fire off to Israel and to other U.S. allies and assets in the region. But what we don't know is what Iran can actually do now in a world in which, and consider the following, its air defenses are basically knocked out. Its proxy system, Hezbollah, Hamas, are all basically wiped out. Its economy is a basket case. There's internal opposition to the regime. Now, whether that turns into a revolution or an uprising remains to be seen, as you guys were talking about with Kareem Sajapur. But at minimum, we know it's not clear the population is rallying to the regime. So for the regime to take action now, you just sort of look at, like, what are their options? There aren't many. Do they, I hear people speculating that they have sleeper cells that they could activate around the world. It's not clear what they've been able to actually effectuate.
Do you believe there are sleeper cells?
I mean, I've heard reports that there are. I don't have any firsthand knowledge of it. But keep in mind, after the first Trump administration took out Qasem Soleimani, the head of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, we kept hearing that these sleeper cells were going to be activated. Now, there were threats against leaders from the former Trump administration, from the first Trump administration, including threats against President Trump, Mike Pompeo, John Bolton, and others. But nothing has been executed. So is that because of incompetence? I mean, one thing you could look at with regard to Iran over the last few days is just sheer incompetence. So maybe it's incompetence, or maybe the U.S. has been on high alert and been headed off.
One of the questions about competence is, do we believe that they were able to hide any of this nuclear material? Meaning, did we get it all? Did we get some of it? Did we get none of it? And how are we ever going to figure that out?
Yeah, so we don't know. We don't know right now. I have a feeling the Israelis know a lot more. Prime Minister Netanyahu has sent some messages in some of his press engagements that there will be information that will be forthcoming about where that 400 kilograms of enriched uranium is. I would just say this, though. For Iran to build a nuclear bomb, what do they need? They need the infrastructure, the facilities. Those seem largely decimated, or at least substantially set back.
They're scouring the grad schools right now for some physicists.
Right. 2, they need scientists. They need the knowledge. And Israel has systematically been killing the knowledge over the last week and actually over the last few years, so there aren't the scientists. And 3 is the process, meaning if you have some enriched uranium, can you activate the process and turn that into a nuclear bomb? That takes time when you don't have the infrastructure and you don't have the experts. So 2 of the 3 have been removed. I don't know where that 400 kilograms is.
And if it's not 300 feet down, I guarantee Mossad's going to be looking for it and trying to...
Well, that was my question. Do you think that there's now going to be people from either Israel or elsewhere physically inside this country trying to either find it and trying to literally eliminate some of the other scientists or others that would be otherwise engaged?
I think that what the Iranians have learned over the last week is the Mossad, that their country, Iran, has been crawling with Mossad agents. There's a joke that has been flying around on Telegram and other platforms in Iran because no one has seen the supreme leader in days, Khamenei. And so there's been big questions. Where is Khamenei? Where is Khamenei? And they said the only people who know where Khamenei is the Mossad, because the Mossad is, like, everywhere. So do I think that Mossad has some capabilities? I don't know for sure, but I suspect if you look at anything, if you consider anything about the intelligence capabilities of Israel.
Which then gets you to the big next question then. If we're talking about where is he, do you believe there will be regime change? And what do you think Israel's doing, and what do you think the U.S. will do, and how does this all play?
I don't think the U.S. or Israel will pursue regime change. I don't think they need to pursue regime change. The regime is weak. The Iranian regime right now has 2 choices. Either they try to retaliate and will provoke such a dramatic response from the U.S., even more dramatic than we saw over the weekend, that the regime could collapse, or they could lay low. And then many in the country will wonder why. The regime has been telling us for the longest time, if the U.S. did anything approximating what it just did on Saturday night, the regime would come back so ferociously. So where's that ferocious response? And that could, if there's not a ferocious response, that could invite people within the country to start pressing the regime.
Somebody we talked to earlier this morning said maybe you wouldn't see I can't remember if it was Kareem or someone else. Maybe you wouldn't see, maybe what would happen is the IRG would come in and kind of take over things. So it would be change, but not necessarily for the better.
Yeah, I think it could be a weaker state. I mean, that's what you need to think of. Is like, if you look at other countries in the region, could Iran be on a path to becoming Oman or Yemen, or just a country that is just a weak state? And I think that is the most likely scenario right now. Now, that could change.
Can we just go, before we hit the regime change, or just one little follow to you on, if we find out that they still have some form of nuclear something, okay, is it then incumbent upon the United States to continue going after that or not?
I think between the U.S. and Israel, there will be a sustained effort to keep going. Keep in mind,
is the U.S. part of that, or does Israel just take that
so keep in
piece?
mind, Israel right now has total air superiority. They are in control of the skies over Iran. So, I mean, I've spoken to journalists in Israel and those in the Israeli security system who sit there saying, over the last week, it's like a candy store. They know where a lot of Iran's capabilities are, and they're sitting there thinking, wait, we should take this out, we should take it, because they just have total control of the skies.
And you think that's just going to happen for the next couple of weeks? They'll
yes.
just keep taking everything?
Indefinitely. I think they'll be for some time. I don't see the Iranians restoring their air defense capabilities, certainly not now. But the question is, even if the U.S. did not take out the entire capability, we know at a minimum it's been set back substantially.
Right.
So it was weeks, possibly days away from being able to hit that threshold where they could have a nuclear weapons capability. And I think at a minimum today, we are years away from Iran having that path.
And Iran without a shiny little object is not the same Iran. And I don't want to talk about startup region, but you wrote your book, Startup Nation, about Israel. When an expansion of the Abraham Accords and, I don't know, some cooperation and some acknowledgement that Israel has a right to exist, and then a move to come into the 21st century, does it ever happen?
It's a great question, Joe. Why did the Abraham Accords happen? Why did the Emiratis and the Bahrainis, to name two, want to partner with Israel? Because they saw Israel as a technology superpower in the world, as we wrote about in Startup Nation, an economic superpower in the region, and a military and intelligence juggernaut in the region. October 7th punctured that last part, military and intelligence juggernaut. Suddenly, all these Arab countries start to say, wait a minute, maybe Israel's not all that. I think what we've seen over the last year, go back to the pager attack almost a year ago, and then what you saw Israel do against Iran in the last week, suddenly the perception of Israel as this military and intelligence juggernaut is back, and I think you're going to see more and more. And there's another key component. When you talk to the Saudi leadership, they have said for the longest time they want to work with Israel. They want to normalize with Israel, and they want to isolate Iran. They were worried about U.S. leadership. They were worried about, look, if we go up there on a ledge, is the U.S. going to back us up? And I think what they saw over this past week, that is why what President Trump said in his press statement on Saturday night was so important. He said, Israel and I, Netanyahu and I, were a team. We are a team. And that sends a message to the Saudis, do you want to join the team?